The bizarre circus over Craig Thomson descended into farce today. When the beleaguered independent decided to side with the coalition in Parliament, the opposition leader Tony Abbott literally bolted for the doors. Alas, the doors were already locked. The absurd scene will hardly enhance the standing of a Parliament held in low regard by the public. And as National Affairs correspondent Heather Hewitt reports, the grim tone in the House appears to be spreading into the wider community.
This Prime Minister's epitaph will be, "Here lies Julia Gillard, lying to the end."
A vitriolic, bitter, lying, condescending, arrogant facade of a Prime Minister.
They ought to be out there kicking her to death.
Yeah, that's it. Bring back the guillotine. Well, I'm glad that people are angry.
This is a rotten Prime Minister.
No! Lock the doors, too late.
These are strange and angry times in Australian politics, and it all starts here in the federal parliament, where minority government means our politicians are on a knife edge and very battle-scarred.
I'd ask that the interjection that was just across the chamber be withdrawn, Deputy Speaker.
The
About
member
dead man.
Alaire.
I'm a little sensitive, as many would appreciate, to any mention of my dead friend. And I will not have it thrown around this House.
What we're seeing at the moment, though, is a level of vitriol, nastiness, personal attack that I have never seen before.
Yeah, I've been here 13 and a half years, and I asked my friends who've been here longer, and it's the worst they can remember it.
I'm one of the majority of Australians who want to see this period of nastiness pass.
If people are arguing that an adversarial system is in some way new, I think they've got very selective memories.
Nothing will save the Governor-General.
Of course, there have been some turbulent moments in our political history, and it's the nature of Australian democracy to always fight it out on the floors of Parliament. The longest-serving federal MP, Liberal Philip Ruddock, has seen more of this than any other in politics today.
I was there in 1975 at the time of the dismissal. I saw Paul Keating in full flight, and he was always somebody to remember.
I mean, what a bunch of shocking Philistines you are over there.
Why won't you call an early election?
Mate, because I want to do you slowly. I want to do you slowly.
And if you'd suffered one of his tongue lashings, you knew you'd been lashed.
Why didn't you let the other gutless fellow ask the question? Your gutless leader.
But have the tongue lashings and opposition attacks ever been as sustained as they are now?
The Labor brand is toxic.
You are a joke!
Day in, day out, when Labor clings to minority government by a thread.
There's a feeling in the opposition that if there's a constant sense of chaos, it makes it impossible for the government to continue to govern. Tony Abbott has set a tone in the parliament where he's very front foot, he's very aggressive.
The old adage, if you can't stand the heat, you shouldn't be in the kitchen, has some validity.
And yet it all began so differently with the promise of a so-called new paradigm.
There was a lot of fine talk about how this was going to bring out the best in our politicians.
I think we can have a kinder, gentler polity.
We really thought a minority government, fragile, insecure, might therefore lead to a better quality of debate and more mutual respect across the chamber. And how wrong we were.
Voters are so frustrated with what they're seeing that some social commentators and MPs across the political divide think the ugliness in Parliament has spilled out into the community and in fact opened the floodgates to public hostility.
I've heard a number of politicians on both sides of the House again state they haven't seen it so bitter out in the public. You know, this bitterness, this almost hatred or vindictive feeling towards politicians.
You're a gutless loser.
Well, I'm here, mate.
You're a gutless loser.
I'm here. Piss that lion Gillard off.
She's a menopausal monster.
Okay, good on you, Benita. Thank you.
It's beyond harsh. It is cruel. A lot of the tone of our public debate is nasty in the nastiest possible way.
Why does this woman hate Australia so much?
Thank you, Julia, you imbecile.
The radio shock jocks have been having a field day. So too have the tabloids and the bloggers on the internet, where Julia Gillard appears to be the prime target. Many of the images and comments are too repulsive or libellous to broadcast on this program. But they do raise the question of whether she's being so vilified because she's female.
I think some of it is deeply, profoundly sexist, misogynist, I would say.
It's unforgivable. It just shouldn't be part of the political discourse.
She's being defended on the basis that maybe people are blaming the government's performance on her gender. I think the government's performance has to be judged for what it is. It is a failed government.
Neither side is ever going to agree on this, though they do all acknowledge that hate mail is not new, especially in contentious portfolios.
I needed close personal protection for some 7 years. As Minister for Immigration and Attorney General, I don't think it was a figment of somebody's imagination that it was thought that that was necessary.
But what's different now is the rapid advances in communications technology, which means this generation of politicians faces enormous new pressures.
It's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's viral emails. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that just didn't exist.
The rumour mill is now so rife, it recently got to the point where the Minister for Workplace Relations, Bill Shorten, posed for family photographs for Sunday tabloids to say he was happily married. Many politicians fear it's going to get worse, and this defamation lawyer says there's only one way to change that.
Look, if a politician took a defamation action against someone, or against perhaps an individual who's just circulated this rumour, I think that would probably send a message, and it'd send a pretty important message.
Most public figures make a judgment about whether they're prepared to spend the money and the heartache on taking on rumours.
So, in a climate like this, who on earth would want to be a politician?
I encourage people to stand for Parliament. But how do you do that when parliamentarians are treated as other, as fair game?
Who would go into Parliament as a young woman today? Who would look at the conflict, the abuse, the criticism of the Prime Minister and the harshness of the environment and think, that's for me, yep, that's the career I'm after?
And that could be the unforeseen price for both sides in the fallout from this poisonous political atmosphere.